Hi everyone, welcome to our Team Talk series, a PESTA podcast series where we talk about everything physical education. My name is Nasrun, a Master Teacher from PESTA, and with me I have two of my colleagues. Let them introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Ridzal, Senior Academy Officer from PESTA.
Hi, I'm Hana, Academy Officer from PESTA.
Right, now today's topic is about E21CC. What is E? Not electronic, not email, but emerging 21CC. Now, I think we are all familiar with this, what we call the Swiss roll for the past more than 1 decade. Today's conversation will be zeroing in straight into that outer ring, right? We all know that this is the core values, and then this is the social emotional competencies. And the last part here, E21CC or emerging 21CC, is something that you like to go deeper into. If you realize now, you can recall the Minister Chan Chun Sing, right? At the work plan seminar last year, he gave us that 4 focus areas. Can you recall what they are? Adaptive thinking, inventive thinking, communication, and civic literacy. Well done. Okay, result you pass. Okay, Hana. Okay. Now, Hana, you've been in PESTA for more than a year now, and I think you are also one of the strong advocates where teaching of values is concerned. How do you relate to this E21CC? What has been your experiences, your observations so far?
So I guess every time I have one question for teachers, that is when your student is going to graduate, your graduating student, what are some of the things that is going to make you feel proud about your students? So in terms of disposition, what is it? So it's very common that none of them would say that they want a lot of school team players, all right? They will say that be competent in the skills. However, there are other things they want to see that is going to make them proud. Example, good team players, able to accept other people's ideas, creative thinkers, growth mindsets. So these are very common themes they said. Of course, value is also a very important part in terms of respect and responsibility and all. So after we have unpacked this, right, then we realize that we ask back ourselves, like, in your PE lesson, when they have finished that 6 years or 4 years in your secondary, do you see all these characteristics? So does your teaching bring out all these characteristics? And that's when we dive deeper into what can we do, all right, to develop all these characteristics you all wish to see in your students in terms of growth mindset, resilience, and all.
Yep. Okay, Rizal, what about you?
I think I will speak from my own personal experience first. Back in school, when I was teaching PE lesson, my main focus was mainly more on the psychomotor and cognitive skills. I was thinking 21CC or E21CC infused in PE got time? Or would it take so much time from our teaching and learning that will hamper? Because I would see PE as a physical form of education. But then after reflecting much, think about the PCC that we talk about, positive classroom culture. How can we create that positive classroom culture when we don't inculcate the right values to our students? So that got me thinking that, hey, there must be a way that we can also weave in E21CC into PE naturally. And thanks to the working opportunity in PESTA, working with teachers, it helps me get a clearer understanding of how we can infuse E21CC in PE lesson.
Yeah, I think similarly when I first started out many years back before I was involved in the PEM research, to me, teaching of values is very simple. Teamwork, sportsmanship, that's it. As long as I see, hey, got teamwork, got sportsmanship, okay, good, settled. And I think when teachers ask us, okay, do you develop this explicitly? I say, yeah, I do. They are always in groups of 4, or something in groups of 2. I always make sure they're in a group. So settled already, right? That's when the PEM research, told me otherwise, says that, yes, you may be doing it, but are you doing it explicitly or not? Do the students know what they are doing is called, let's say, collaboration or communication? So I think that journey of realization that this is too important to just scratch the surface. I think it's Judith Ring that mentioned if we were to approach PE as just a psychomotor domain focus. Yes, students may be good in their motor skills and all that, right? But after they have done all the learning, they may not want to take part anymore, because for them, PE is just that. Okay, but those students who may not be skillful, they see the value of it. Okay, they may not be the elite sportsmen, but beyond that domain or that context of PE, they will still take part in other contexts as well. Yeah. So I think we need to understand, how does emerging 21cc look like in our PE lessons. What then can teachers do, for them to hone this particular aspect of 21cc? Yeah. In terms of, let's say, give an example, communication, for example. Yeah.
So in terms of communication, right, I think part of good teaching is always teacher role modeling.
Okay.
So we role model how communication should look like, and good communication. When the kids talk to one another, when they're discussing an idea, when someone shares an idea, it's like, hey, yeah, idea not good lah, my idea better, So that is communication, but is it good communication skills? And in terms of communication, I've heard this before. When my students go for P5 camp, confirm they will learn communication, they will learn resilience. So this confirm they will learn is something that I have questions about, because people who have gone to camp, they don't. The students fight all the time. They give up, they cry. And so it brings back to that intentionality that you mentioned, right? Really explicitly, if you talk about communication, what is required in the communication skills? So do you wait for teachable moments to arise when they start quarreling, and you say, don't quarrel, listen to everyone? Or is there a skill that we can teach? Example, conflict resolution, or, that if someone says something, you may not agree, what should I do? What should I say? You can say things like, I like your idea, I see where you're coming from, but can I offer you another way of saying it? Can I make a suggestion? Can I add on to what you have? So those are also communication skills, but do students naturally have it? I think we adults also, sometimes we are lacking in this. Yeah. Therefore, the explicit teaching, I find it very important. And actually, we could break down all these communication skills in terms of the active listening and the giving feedback part. So teachers can start from there and train their students.
Ridzal?
I think on the other side of the coin, when I shared earlier about E21cc in PE, on the other side of the coin will also be, I have done all those things that you have mentioned earlier on, correct? I've given the students an opportunity to work in group, to collaborate. When they collaborate, they tend to talk, they will talk. They will share ideas. But like what Hana mentioned earlier on is, what are the skill sets that we need to impart to the students to achieve effective communication, becoming a good collaborator? And I like the part where she mentioned that the teacher need to role model this. And on top of teacher role modeling this, we could also capture those students in good actions, exhibiting all these positive behaviors to showcase to the students, hey, you see, so and so are doing this, and this is very good because we learn from one another. So teacher role model, at the same time capture those nice moments to exhibit to the teachers, to the students as well.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with both your points. I think for communication, we need to be cognizant, of the fact that what sort of communication do we want to see happening in a PE lesson context. Definitely, many teachers are concerned, hey, I got 30 minutes of lesson or 60 minutes of lessons, then how much time do I give for them to communicate? Can I just do the communication later on during the one period lesson in the classroom or not? Can we just play now and then we talk later? So that begs the question of how can they enhance that play experience or physical experience if they could have stopped for a while, talk to each other, right? Hey, just now your movement, maybe you want to consider doing this instead of that. See, another aspect of communication is that certain way of doing it, right? Like feedback, right? For feedback, many teachers ask, yes, they give feedback, right? Good, not good, lousy sometimes, So again, here there must be an intended, right, framework. For example, the TEG. Tell one thing that you like, and then ask a question, and then give a suggestion. So I think if we were to start off something, okay, we can use such frameworks to to just scaffold students, into their experience. Hey, okay, this is how I can start giving feedback. Or we can use sentence starters, right? Okay, I like this because, so these are the ways we can trigger, that skill to communicate clearly, concisely, with respect, for them to understand, okay, this is what communication looks like. Okay, there's content, there's affirmation, and there's useful feedback. Yeah.
I think I would like to add to the point that you mentioned earlier on, that we cannot disjoin or disconnect E21CC with all the learning areas. If we see that as disjoint or disconnected, then that will be quite challenging for us to think about ways on how we can also bring in E21CC. But if we see them seamlessly, a natural process of weaving it into the lesson, then I think it will come out naturally, and we will find ways, and taking along on all these frameworks or even the thinking routines that you have just shared earlier on, we can slowly introduce it in the class. And for me, I think for a routine to be a routine, it needs to be reinforced again and again. And when we see students are able to communicate, collaborate effectively, in return, we will see them engage in the lesson even more, and then start to think about other possibilities. And that's where the critical, inventive, and adaptive thinking also comes into play.
I like the point about engagement. Okay, sometimes we teachers always think that psychomotor is the most important, right? But I think we look around, how many of our colleagues, or how many would say that psychomotor is that important for their future, for their future whatever job scopes they're in. Yes, of course, being healthy, practicing a healthy lifestyle and all. But really, is dribbling a ball very important? Is passing a ball very important? If I cannot do a chest pass, is it I cannot work in a company? No, it doesn't. But if I cannot communicate with people, or I'm always very quarrelsome, all this will create troubles when they're in the future workforce. So I feel that when you want to engage students, and teachers really need to reflect. Yes, psychomotor skill is one part of PE, and a very, very important part of PE, I have to say. However, is that the only thing you want them to take away in your class? All right. So if we only focus on psychomotor skills, can students be fully engaged without the thinking and without the effective part? I don't think so, because in our PE frameworks, it talks about the physical environment and the social environment. And when there's a social environment, we need to think about all the other skills, like communication skills, collaborative skills. So I agree, you should not be silo thinking of psychomotor is psychomotor. But at the same time, when we develop their psychomotor skills, sometimes students are more engaged when they learn with their friends. They try to solve problems together. And those are more meaningful than I'm able to do 30 chest pass. So what if you can do 30 chest pass? But if I can cooperate with my friend, I can do 30 chest pass with Ridzal. He's very good, so I can pass very hard. I can pass with Nasrun. I know he's not so good. I can pass lightly, and and we can also do 30. And the empathy and everything else, I think, has to be the goal of PE. It's not the 30 chest pass alone.
I see your point. I think even at primary 1, for example, right? I like to ask the students, why do you think we are doing this? So yes, they will talk about, so that we can play a game later on, so that this. But more importantly is that experience. How do you learn the process in learning to do a pass or a throw? Okay, what's that process like? So that process of, hey, I can copy my friend's style. Hey, that's good. Okay, we can discuss a bit. I give you my idea, you give me your idea, So that sort of thing we want to teach them. If you can't do it, who can you ask for help with, from, and how do you do so? So that's where the communication part comes in, and you model it, like you say, right? Hey, can you show me how to do it, please? Say thank you. Okay, smile, eye contact, So these sort of things we can't take for granted, Okay, it needs to be taught, right? So that's communication. Perhaps we can go on to now maybe adaptive thinking. How have you done so, or what have you seen teachers doing in schools on adaptive thinking?
Actually, I would say it's very difficult to separate all the thinkings. Like when I do this, it's just creative or just adaptive or just, because in a task design itself, right, I think as teachers it's very hard to okay, this is going to be a creative task. But to be creative, sometimes they adapt ideas. And so I don't know whether the fine line. So in terms of developing thinking to me, the task is very important. The learning environment is very important. So if you have a very close task, it's just dribble there and come back, pass, and that's it. Then I don't need to think a lot, you know. Of course, we can set constraints and make them do certain things. However, the task is still the task. When I have no social constructive kind of learning, right? I mean, maybe I'm coming more from a social constructivist perspective. I feel that the learning will not be as rich. However, when you set a situation where they have to solve certain problem, okay, now the two of you are going to make your pass as fast as you can, you know, and then over a certain distance, and then I want to know over which distance you can do how many times. Can you come up with strategies to solve that problem with your friend? Then they started to discuss, they try different ways of throwing, and they try different methods, and they come up with a solution. From my observation, the students are more engaged, and they really enjoy that process. But of course, they may come up with skills that we are not very happy with. They may say, throw this way, you know, which is not part of our PE skills. But the first part of exploring different ideas, and then after that, slowly, we can guide them into to be more open to different ways. And then, okay, maybe you have tried this way. How about now we try it this way? And at the end of the day, they have to make sense for themselves, which is the best way for them.
I think as teachers personally, while we give a set of instructions, we can't restrict the students to do what we want them to do only per se. We should also give them that opportunity to exercise and use their creative juice, their brain juice, to explore alternatives. But then again, there is also a level of progression. For some students, you need that scaffolding, you know, as an anchor for them to think, how do I think beyond what the teacher has already instructed me? And then to some, there's some degree of variations that you will allow. So Hana earlier on mentioned about a kid swinging very well. Is that creative adaptive? It is. But then when do we put a stop to it due to safety concerns? So you bring in the other element as well as safety concerns, ethical concerns, so that the students are also aware that while they exercise critical, adaptive and inventive thinking, they must also consider safety and also ethical values. And I think to prepare the students for the world out there, while we want to inculcate in them the emerging 21 competency skills, we must also ground them to the set of values that we have over here.
I mean, hearing from the two of you, definitely there are many strategies that we can employ out there, you know. But these strategies need to be planned, right? Because if you want certain outcomes from our students, it cannot be, okay, when I walk to my classroom in 5 minutes time, I plan my lesson in my head, and then let's do it, you know. It can work sometimes, okay, but if you want it to be more intentional, see the outcomes being very pronounced, very clear to our students, it has to be planned, right? What can teachers do, you know, or what have you seen the teachers are doing in schools right now that we can share with the audience? What can we do in order to make it more intended at, let's say, a departmental level or a level, you know? As a teacher, yes, I can plan for my lesson, but as a department, for example, like, what can we do? What have you seen teachers doing out there?
So a lot of times we do ad hoc. So today's lesson, I try to be a bit more creative. You know, I set a situation where the kids can show me some creativity. Show me 10 different ways to throw the beanbags. Oh, that's very creative. And finish my lesson. It has some creative thinking aspects. So those are very ad hoc. And do the kids learn any useful skills that is transferable? Sometimes I question myself. So we would propose that they may want to consider doing a unit plan instead. So for example, if you are doing a floorball lesson or pushing with a long implement, all right, during this lesson, what are the thinking skills or communication or collaborative skills you want to develop? So you plan it as a unit and you deliberately put in those learning opportunities for them to practice those skills. That will be more beneficial. So for example, you want to develop this like critical thinking, right? So usually teachers set the distance and then we just pass. And teachers say, okay, good, 15. Okay, now move to the second distance, move to the third distance. However, how about returning that to the students themselves? say that, okay, set your first distance. If you can make the success criteria is 10 passes, I want you to set your level 2. And the students will think, okay, how far? And then they will do and continue to set their own. And then they will decide. So thinking is not just thinking. They have to explain why they set that distance. I set this distance because. So explaining is very important, the reasoning part in thinking. Therefore, you cannot separate, again, thinking from communication. So after I choose certain things, I need to be able to explain. I need to, my friend tell me, put there all the way that side. Why result? Because it's fun, but we cannot pass 10 times. So these are all very important aspects of communication.
I think as a department, what we can do is, while we want to get students to be critical, adaptive, and inventive, we ourselves must also be adaptive, critical, and inventive first. So addressing your questions about what the teachers could do is perhaps maybe we go away with this common understanding of what adaptive, inventive, and critical thinking looks like as a department. We have that common understanding, and we go out with a set of a similar unit plan, like what Hana is sharing. We try different ways of doing it, different approaches, and we come back as a team to discuss what went well or what didn't. Are there any other concerns and challenges? Then as a team, we sit together and we learn from one another. And I think through that, we are also practicing our critical, adaptive, and inventive thinking. At the same time, communication and collaboration skills.
Yes.
I remember an example. A teacher was asking the students to do a strike. So just 2 rackets, one with a longer handle and then one with a shorter handle. So this boy was explaining, my hand is long, so I choose the long bat. Your hand is short, I think you should use the short one. But then the friend said, no, I chose, I don't think I want to choose the short one because the short racket is very heavy. I prefer the long one. So if we have not given those opportunities, you didn't know what the kids are thinking. And actually, they have a reason. But sometimes it's a reason that we want to hear, whether it's reasonable, whether it's safe, it makes sense. So sometimes teachers need to give them that space to talk about it and to capture their thinking and thoughts. And I find that very valuable.
Powerful.
Rather than you say short one, long one, no, I say racket. So you use a short racket, you use a long racket. But no reason, no nothing. So kids can actually do those reasoning. I think teachers need to.
Exactly. So the point that I made just now, about telling them the why, not telling them, maybe making them realize the why. Hey, this is appropriate for this distance, for example. If I'm just with you, I can just go and hand toss. Why not? So that questioning is important, right? That facilitation of the experience. I feel that our teachers are very creative in terms of they can plan all the tasks and all that wonderfully. They give choice and all that. However, I think that gap that we need to maybe bring ourselves up to is how do we then facilitate the experience lah? What questions to ask? If I see this, okay, what else can I ask? If they can do it, what else can they do? If they can't do it, what else can they do? So offer first or ask questions, and then after that, okay, let them figure it out. If they cannot, that's why we say, okay, maybe you want to consider this. It's a suggestion, but then it's put in the form of a question, for example. And then just now you were mentioning about the outcomes, right? Unpacking, what is E31CC, right? So we do not have to reinvent the wheel, thank goodness. So we have this document called the Learning Goals and Developmental Milestones. Where to get it from? From intranet, right? So this wonderful document has unpacked for us what each of the E31CC looks like, and the milestones are at different levels. So I think it's wonderful, and definitely as a department, we need to have some time, maybe go for a staycation together, something like that, right? And then put everything up, okay, these are the things that we might want to spread out a bit more, And cognizant for us to be aware of is that we can't hit everything in one lesson. I think that's very important, that this is not a magic bullet. Okay, the moment I do this, they will learn this, and that's it. It's a progression. And as a department, it's good if we can, because the teachers want to do all this. How do we then tell them to relax? Okay, let's spread out all these outcomes throughout the year or throughout the term first.
I think it's always a good start that teachers listen to students. We don't make the assumption that they don't know anything. So a very simple starting point is actually think, pair, share. When be it a choice of equipment, which one you choose, or why you perform a certain thing, or when you're playing the game, after the game, just talk to your partner, how did it go, what went well. So creating those kind of platforms are very important. So if a teacher really don't know where to start, give them that space to talk to their friends, and then you may observe, didn't talk. Okay, then that's an opportunity for you. You realize that your class is lacking that. When given the platform, they still don't talk. So what should I do? Do I need sentence starters? Do I need to? So I think as you listen more to students, you'll find more and more opportunities to infuse it in the way that the students, those skills that the students may need.
I think while you have plan A to deliver your lesson, be also be prepared to do plan B, plan C, plan D, because while you have a set of plans to carry out for that particular lesson, for that particular class, for that particular learning areas, you may need to go for a different approaches for a different set of students, for even set of classes. So just be aware, but let's try it. And then as we go along, we will refine, and then based on what we do here, we share, we talk, we have a dialogue sessions. I think it will get even better.
I was just wondering what you all think about. We create a platform, there's discussion, there's everything. And then the friends start laughing at their ideas. Students who don't want to express. So other than the teachers thinking about the thinking skills, what else should teachers consider?
I think certain frameworks or maybe routines, we call it routines or norms, perhaps thinking about turn taking, to ensure that not one student is monopolizing, that interaction. So maybe we can tell them, okay, we can have a few team talks or whatever, not right? Maybe if just now the first round you have been talking, so now let's have other people to lead the talk. It could be the person who is holding the ball now, number 2. Okay, you are now, you can talk now. So if we see, to me, if we see those things are not natural to students, right? Then we make it natural for them. We structure a bit, and slowly, as they are used to it, then they can be more aware of, hey, I haven't heard from you yet. What do you think? What do you think? So we teach them how to not just talk, but to lead that session as well. Slowly, appropriate level of readiness. So that to me, that structure is important. That norms. One instruction can change the behavior, sometimes. So you can tell them, all right, each person contribute one idea. Then after that, you decide on the best idea. To speak.
If I may add on to that, one instruction or even the mode of sharing your thoughts and ideas could also transform a kid. Because I recall one of the engagement with a student is we have this assumption that the kids doesn't want to participate, don't want to talk. Okay, just follow whatever friend A and friend B does or did. But when the teacher did a different approach to elicit her responses or her ideas through pen and paper exercise, she was able to express and share more ideas. So I think a lot of us, including myself, we have this assumption that sharing is in a form of vocal discussion, verbal, but could there be other forms of sharing in a different format? So we also have to think about different students' preference, maybe at the initial stage before we get them to have that confidence to share even more at a later stage.
I like some of the strategies you all use in schools right now, right? Where before a think, pair, share, you give them some time first, right? I'm going to give you 10 seconds on your own. Okay, think first. Okay, what is the one thing you want to improve on? Then are you ready? Then okay, another 10 seconds talk to the partner. Okay, then it's easier for you to do, okay, what do you think, this group? Okay, one person, can you give your answers? So I think that prepares them, for, okay, I have already answer here. If I'm called, I know what to say in that sense, So
I also like that approach, So sometimes I see teachers were like, okay, what do you think? Oh, yes. And then, at the end of the day, we hear from 4 or 5 students. And usually that 4 or 5 is repeated, the same students. And then the rest of the students have this learned helplessness in the sense that it's okay, I won't be called,
You always call the school
if
team
teacher
players, right?
call me and just say don't know, it's fine. And then then it comes to a point whereby I don't need to think in PE.
Yeah.
I'm not sure as PE teachers is that fine with you, you know, that they come in and they just follow all your instructions perfectly and they leave as a very good student. Is that good enough? Or would you want them to hear their voice as well? What do they have to say? How do they feel about today's PE? Did they enjoy? Did they learn something? Did they hear a new idea from a friend? So I think at the end of the day, it comes back to teachers.
That's right.
What's important to you?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah, I think there's a lot of strategies. I think if we were to write down the strategies, we have about 5, 6, or maybe one volume of it already. Definitely, I think E21C is something that we cannot leave to chance. Perhaps, in fact, the whole framework of 21CC cannot be left to chance. And some teachers might be asking, hey, today you talk about E21CC, then you're not talking about core values. Is it separate from social emotional competencies? How would you respond to that? That are they these 3 rings? Are they on their own or are they related somehow? So I think what I would suggest is maybe look at it as the ripple in the bucket. Okay, imagine there's a water in the bucket, right? Okay, and then you just drop a drop of water or stone in the center, and then what do you notice? Okay, the ripple goes to the sides, right? Outer ring, right? And then it goes back to the center again after a few times, and then it stabilizes, and then it becomes starts it again, right? So I see it as that ripple right in the center is the core values, and then the core values, as it ripples up, it touches the SEC, and then touches the E21CC, and it comes back inside again. So essentially, 21CC or even E21CC, right? They are related to the core values. And then because this core values is like an anchor, okay? And it's abstract, How do students know I'm showing respect? And then why do I need to show respect? That's why you go out to the SEC. And then what for? So that I can communicate, effectively. I can communicate with clarity. So that's how I see it.
I totally agree. In a PE class, if you see they're doing dance or gymnastics, if what you hear from students is, teacher, you copy my idea. So the first thing is the environment, right? So they feel that ideas are individual and it's mine. They do not see that when I hear more ideas, I can adapt their ideas, I can build and I can create more ideas. So you want to know whether your class is encouraging that kind of culture, whether you're having a thinking culture in the classroom. These are things that we can really look out and listen. So if they are very willing to build on one another's ideas, you know that, first of all, to be willing to accept other people's ideas is already empathy, all right? And to give suggestion, you need to be respectful and how to do that. So at the end of the day, they have to be rooted with core values. Or else you will have very smart criminals out there who are very creative in cheating your money, scamming and all those. So everything has to be guided by core values. So at the end of the day, when they are having any discussion, when we want to come up with a creative dance idea, it should make all of us look good and feel good, rather than it's my idea, I want to look good, I'm in the center, you're behind me. Then that is lacking in values. So they're definitely all interlinked. And when we teach, teachers need to know what to observe, so that they know whether it's being displayed in the class.
So I think good conversations. Thanks a lot, colleagues, for this rich conversation. Definitely a lot of things for us to dive into. And I think let's end with one rallying call, a phrase, or whatever, to encourage the teachers out there when it comes to 21CC.
For me, maybe for you guys out there, think big but start small first. Go Hana.
Go Hana. I think you're really, for me, it's very important to know that at the end, when they leave your classroom, what kind of student will they be? So if you want a student to be very confident, may not be the best player in the team, but can play in the team, may not be very good with all the skills, but willing to try. So if those, you agree with all this, right, then maybe you should really put in more effort in your intentionality in teaching the E21CC and the SEC and values.
Okay, for me, I would like to borrow the famous words of our principal master teacher, Mr. Hanif, with this question, would you like to be taught by you? As adults, right, we have a certain way of learning, but if we were to step back and then look at our teaching, and then take a look, hey, would I like to be taught by me? Okay, I think that's enough, a deep question enough for us to ponder, right? Okay. Thank you once again, colleagues, for this wonderful session. We have come to the end of the podcast. So if you have any suggestions or feedback on this podcast series, do send them to us. And don't forget, we do have a Facebook page as well as an Instagram account for you to keep connected to us and look at what's the latest from PESTA. With that, thank you.